It's your professionalism that I respect.
Stephanie, how are you? Good morning. Happy Thursday to you.
Happy Thursday to you too. Happy middle of summer. Do you guys have a huge heat wave?
It is so hot, Stephanie.
I know. This is the first place I've lived in that actually has AC, because it's not that normal for us to have AC up here. And it is, I have to say, it's really nice because it's getting like pretty freaking hot here. I was up at with my son last night at his dad's place. And they don't have AC, and I was like, oh, it's so But they have a cat that is actually the sister of my cat, and they have taught her how to use they potty trained her, like she uses the toilet.
Smart cat.
Yeah, it's pretty funny, and she goes for walks on a leash and everything like that. And it kind of reminded me, like, I used to have a goldfish, and it knew how to break dance, but it would break dance on the carpet, but only for like 20 seconds at a time and only once.
For that one time,
Right.
really crushed the whole breakdancing thing.
The worm and the fish.
Yeah. I mean, just was all over the place. You're like, wow,
Right.
that's incredible. This fish is just a remarkable breakdancer. Stephanie, it's so hot.
How hot, Chris?
It's so hot that my sweat is sweating. It's so hot that even the weather app just stopped working and gave up. So hot that the forecast was, hey, just move to a cooler climate. So hot that I packed an ice cube for emotional support. That's how hot it is, Stephanie. It is that hot outside.
So I almost kind of led you into your own dad joke without even knowing it.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
What are we talking about today?
Stephanie, today we're talking about, look, it happens, right? It happens. I don't want to dwell on it, but sometimes things just happen prematurely, right? Just premature. And in this particular case, we're talking about premature scaling. Stephanie, are you scaling your business to win, or are you just scaling it to hide? In 2011, this is a crazy story. Color Labs raised $41 million before launching their photo sharing app. They hired aggressively and rented massive office space, ignoring that users found their core product confusing and pointless. By the way, side story, because we did a little side research here. In July of 2011, before their launch, it was reported that Google offered to buy Color for $200 million, and Color turned them down. In October of 2012, it was reported that the board voted to shut them down. July of 2011, October of 2012. Crazy. So this kind of premature scaling isn't just an anomaly. It's a common fatal flaw where founders use money and motion to avoid fixing their foundational problems. Today on How to Founder, we're talking about the danger of premature scaling. I'm your host, Chris Franks. With me, the lovely and Canadian Stephanie Hayes.
The lovely and Canadian.
It's just an adjective now. It's just how I describe you, is lovely and Canadian.
Here's what I want to say. It's okay. Premature scaling happens to everyone at some point in their life.
I mean, look, it's nothing to be embarrassed about, really. You just need to discuss it. Just get it out in the open, really, is what it comes down to.
So this Color Lab story is actually like really interesting, right? Because we went through the .com days, but this is sort of like well past that, and to have this kind of volume and this alignment with the actual value of the business is just so interesting, and how quickly, I think it was within 3 months of their launch, one of the founders quit, and so did their product architect. So the thing that we were going to talk about today was, how do you know that the product's healthy?
Right.
They lost like 98% of their audience within months of launching.
Did you change my name to Chris Frankenelli, or did I mistype that as I came into the studio today?
Oh my God.
They, yeah, that was great. My name is now Chris Frankenelli. It's too late. I can't change it. So technical issues and apparently spelling issues continue. That's a perfect analogy for what we're talking about, Stephanie. The problem that exists here is that sometimes there's things that are just fundamentally wrong with the business. And I think talking and starting with what we went through in .com. And again, I was kind of tangential to it, but you were kind of in the mix there. And it was insane. It was crazy. But it was such a land grab and race for scale that scale was the only choice that you had, really. And people, famously, people were writing checks off of, a bad business plan and a PowerPoint presentation and things like that. But it felt like almost a gold rush. It felt like a land grab at that point. And if you could carve out a piece of this thing called the internet, you could build a great business. Now, famously, pets.com, all these other businesses had spectacular failures. Were those failures of scale, or were they failures of us trying, of the business itself being flawed, and scale just sort of called out those? And I know it's a nuanced question, but I think it's important we discuss it.
My opinion is that it was the incessant, insane focus on the funding model, right? Go pump and dump, right? Go fund these businesses, get them like to massive numbers really quickly without nobody thought about the product. Everything, I know it. I was in it. Everything was about marketing, right? Everything was about marketing. And so all you had to do was prove that you could get some customers. Actually, I don't even know that that's true. Like, nobody was funding a business plan. People were funding the uh, the magnetism of the founder. You know what I mean? So really, I think we're sort of having this course correction, this adjustment now, where there's a lot of demand on the product being useful and good, and you can scale. You can build a product really cheap and easy now and quickly. So those that you can almost like test the market really quickly, but we're not seeing these same types of crazy investments in short periods of time, right?
I think so. Is scaling a company, is taking a bunch of money, there is a scaling risk that we look at in our companies, right? We say that there's a scale risk associated with that. Specifically, let's say that you have a great company that's operating well, you have a good proven business model, et cetera. What are the elements that scaling can create, can make you fail, right? Like, so scaling itself is a difficult process and it's challenging. It's not necessarily just about your business fundamentals. It's really about how you build companies and operate companies. And so in your experience, what are the elements of those pieces that start to break as you start to scale up a company?
Well, when you think about it, you've got different business models for every kind of level that you're at. And, I think about this one business that added 600 people within 6 months, like something like that, 500, 600 people in 6 months. Just the people problem alone. Like, it's not just managing that many people, but their roles all have to change. The type of business you are changes, how you communicate internally changes. And if that doesn't change quickly, the whole business grinds to a halt because you've got expectations here and people trying to operate like a little business down here, and your money looks different, what you're investing in. As soon as you take on money, the pressure now is to invest in different things that might actually be really good for business. And maybe this business can't even be successful at scale. It was really successful as a little, organic, homegrown, whatever, business with a small community, and then you try to make it big and the whole essence of the brand goes away. Like, there's so many different reasons that scaling too fast without going through the iterations of growth is almost impossible.
I feel like this is one of the primary things that I've seen is that as a founder, you have things, you started this company because you like to do stuff. You like to be involved and you like to be in charge and you like to be in control. This is an absolute paradox. You have to change or you have to bring in a CEO. And this is that idea of the founder to CEO. We've discussed it a few different times, and it's such a critical component here. And I think it's really important for early stage founders to understand when they say, I just want to scale, just want to scale, just want to scale. Very often, you stop getting to do the thing that you love to do, which has made you the reason why you started the company. And it sucks. So let's say that you love building product, or you love selling and talking to customers, or you love really being in the weeds of marketing. You don't get to do that anymore because now you're an executive, and executives have to act and behave differently than an individual founder. It is two different skill sets, and I think oftentimes the founder mentality of trying to control too much and being in charge and not delegating is the thing that causes that tension internally. Have you seen that?
Yeah, and this is really prevalent in the tech industry because it's not just a skills thing, it's an identity thing. So I'm a super smart developer and I've come up with some innovative way of building a product, but my whole life has been based on me being a super smart nerd, right? Like the technical side of my skill set. So I go start a company and it starts to take off. And now my role becomes something totally different. And I'm not doing the thing that I identify with being good at. And now all of a sudden, I don't feel valuable anymore. And I feel very not confident in my role. And I think to your point, and this is kind of your life too, you may have to be prepared to hire another CEO and be very honest about where your value is. Like, are you better staying as the directing the development of the product? I think so many people end up in that role because it's a bit contrary to what we've been saying, that as a CEO you need to be out in front of customers. Yes, totally agree with that. But if you try to take on that whole leadership role when your role has been product innovation, you're not going to do either one of them well. Like, you're going to lose the attention to the product that made it good in the first place, and you're going to be struggling in a place where that you don't identify with, right? So one of the things that is going to enable scaling faster is to really think about who leads.
It's the analogy there of being a somebody who really likes to code, or somebody a computer scientist, or somebody that can write software. Again, kind of dead in 2026. But if you're somebody that did that, and there's a hard technical problem that needs to be solved, and you can fix it. If you sat down and did a session from classically 8 p.m. till 2 a.m., you could fix that problem, and you could come in the next day and be the hero, and everybody gets to tell you how smart you are about how you fix this technical problem. If you do that, you've created a trap whereby A, you're not doing your job, and B, now you've created a cycle of dependency for a group of people that now are going to come to you the next hard technical problem because they didn't have to do it. It's great. They got to go to bed at normal time. It is a very, very nefarious thing. And yes, you can sort of organize and build your organization around having some ability to do that. But at the end of the day, CEOs have a different job than founders. Founders are about creating traction and getting to the place where your company can scale. A CEO has two primary functions, Stephanie. It is money and people. Everything else is tangential, right? You have to be the person that's responsible for money in the bank and the people on your team. That's it. I want to shift gears though, because we're talking scaling as a choice. It's I don't know, maybe I scale, maybe I don't. And for some businesses, that's true. But for the vast majority of businesses, you don't get to make that decision. Either A, your users make it, or B, you never reach that moment of inflection where you're like, wow, our growth is incredibly rapid. What is scaling and how does a company achieve that? I think it's probably a good place for us to step back to.
Or you take on money and you don't have a choice, right?
That was going to be my other point, is like, at that point, then if you're taking venture capital money, almost by definition, you're building a scale up. Like, there's no such thing as a small growth VC backed company.
That's right. And you better be focused on growth and scaling up, or you're gonna, your investors are gonna take over. And so ask me the question again.
So what is scaling?
To me, scaling is doing the same thing, achieving the same outcomes in much larger volume, right? And in order to do that, you don't just do the same thing, but more of it, right? Businesses are entities, they are systems, they are kind of living, breathing, organic things, and they are going to function the same way up to a certain point. And then you've got to start thinking about a different model. So the being conscious of that and understanding where you are in that life cycle is incredibly important as a founder. Do you agree?
I do. And just to reset, my name is Chris Frankfurter. With me, Stephanie Hayes. No, I mean, I have to change my name now. It's now the third time in this episode that I have a different name. So I appreciate that. I have no idea how that happened. I assumed you did it, but yeah, that was, maybe Anthony is like lurking in the background changing my name.
You're being hacked.
Yeah, which would be on brand. So it is funny. So the thing that's a little bit counterintuitive here, and I just think we should discuss it briefly, is when the vast majority of people say that they want to build a good company, that means that there's a certain amount of inputs, capital, time, people, etc., and outspits more money than you put in. That's a good business, right? You have this thing called profit. You have this thing called margin. With that profit, you have cash flow, cash you can invest back in the company. You can take it as dividends, whatever. However, in this calculus of scale-ups, that's not always true. Building a profitable company doesn't always matter. And this is a little counterintuitive, but I want you to kind of touch on, famously, Amazon didn't turn profitability on for years and years. When they did, they just approved that they could do it. They're massively profitable. But there's this other metric called growth, which has become the proxy of building a successful business in this startup scale-up world. Talk just a little bit about that metric. What does that mean?
Well, first of all, I just want to say, like, you make a good point that it happens now and then, that scaling is not quite the same thing as growth, right? So growth is growth. Scaling is being able to grow in an effective way in multiples, right? In larger multiples. So both are kind of happening at the same time. Scale talks about whether you can, and growth is just growth. Like, growth is like, it can happen in really ineffective ways. It can happen in really effective ways. And to me, scaling is about being able to do it effectively. So back to your original question. Tell me your original question. It's still
about growth versus scale. So there's a concept in startups where you and I might run a business that is actually not a good business in our definition of that, which is, hey, we're going to bring money in and we'll make profit at the end. Now, the reason why you would run a business that's not profitable is because you're in a very, very high growth competitive market where scaling matters. Now, classically, when you say scale up, and this is, some people will use different terms on this, it is a company that will only become profitable when it reaches scale, meaning that it is a big, massive company with big, massive customers or millions of customers, et cetera. And I've designed my company around a way that I know I'm not going to be profitable. I know I'm not going to build a profitable business until I reach this element. Just on a quick aside, I talk to founders all the time. I talk to a ton of med tech founders, et cetera. And I hear two things, which is, hey, we're raising $40 million to try to go after this market. In medical, it's a very reasonable amount of money to raise based on you are a scale-up. By definition, in med tech, you're a scale-up. Then they say, oh, but I could be profitable in 18 months. You can't. Like, that's not, either you're a scale-up or you're going to kind of bootstrap and slowly grow.
Yeah.
Oh my God, we have a lurker. Now I'm, just to reset, my name is Frank's founder, and with me today is Stephanie Hayes. For those of you listening, I believe Anthony's in the background changing my name constantly on the thing. Thanks, Anthony. Or maybe it's you, Stephanie, I don't know. Or maybe we have somebody that's hacked the system. If you've hacked it, that's great. Just leave us a comment. That'd be great.
Scale up on your hacking business.
Yeah, that would be terrific. So what are the elements? Let's assume for a second that I'm sitting here looking at my business and I'm saying, hey, I've got a business that I think could work, but I have the choice of either going the startup route, like I have full high growth startup, probably get venture funding, try to reach scale up. Classically, people say exit velocity, which is a terrible analogy, but that's that idea of that type of business. Or you can just build a great business that grows organically over time and can reach scale as well, but it's not going to do so in 3 to 4 years, right? Maybe 3 to 5 years is kind of the thing. How do I know which one do I have? Like, where should I be thinking about my business? Because again, you and I talk to founders all the time. They're like, I'm running this business and I'm going to be a billionaire. I'm going to sell it in 3 years because I'm going to raise $20 million. And you're like, that's not going to ever happen. It's just, you have a services business, or that company is niche and you're solving a problem that is not a massive market problem. How do I know whether I have a scale up or just a great business?
Well, is your business great and running on its own without venture capital money right now? Or are you founding something that is going to take 3 years? I worked with a geotechnical company that had an innovation. It'll be $2 or $3 million just to get into a first test client. Like, she knows it's going to be 3-4 years. 3-4 years before she ever even has something to bring to market, right? That to me is a great example, and healthcare is a great example, pharmaceuticals are a great example of, that there's a bunch of stuff that has to happen before you can be profitable, right? If you've got a great little business that is already profitable and is doing well, throwing more money at it isn't necessarily going to make it scale, right? If you intentionally want to grow and do the same thing at scale, then you have to really think about that half of it. So if you think about the business you're running right now and you imagine injecting $41 million into it, what do you think would happen? And if you're at a place where you're like, oh, that would fund the development of this next phase of our product, which I've already proven it would be effective. That was my software company, right? If we had the money to invest in the next round of features that we already knew our customers were asking for, then yes, you could scale, right? Because that would enable us to serve more people and give a better product that would get us more people. Like, that's the flywheel. But if you're just kind of like, oh, let's get some more money because we've proven that our business can run, with no thought to what that looks like, I don't know that you have a business that needs to scale.
I think there's two kind of underlying, and one's a myth, this idea that really successful companies, like we we came up in a time where high growth from founding to exit for $1 billion, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. You know, Instagram sold to Meta, which by the way, now looks like one of the smartest transactions ever, for $1 billion. And I think they had 8 employees at the time. And $1 billion, I think, what was that, 8 years ago, something like that. So I mean, massive sale for a very small company. That story and that kind of idea. Stephanie, just to reset, my name is Anthony is Smarter Than Me, and with me today is Stephanie Hayes. It's great. So the question then becomes, now, God, Anthony's made me lose my train of thought. It's like, what do you do here? And like, so scaling is almost always some sort of a capital investment, unless you're just growing so rapidly that you can fund that through your own growth, but that still brings on all kinds of challenges. For anybody that really wants to understand the business mechanics of this, read Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. He was growing so massively and he was still working and like teaching school with massive amounts of growth because there wasn't this thing called venture capital. He was debt funding everything, and it was incredibly difficult. So there are ways to do it, but it becomes incredibly challenging. If I say, okay, look, I think I've got to scale up here. I have to make that decision. I'm going to go raise venture capital. What metrics should I be looking at and thinking about to be able to say, hey, this is what the VCs would be potentially interested in? And particularly, when is too early? It's the heart of the question for what we're saying today. If I choose and try to scale up too early, what is too early?
But do you think that watching for the pressures in the business, like if you've got the pressures coming where you're constantly asking yourself, how do we solve this customer problem? How do we, like, we got to hire, like if this is the thing that keeps coming up for you, we got to hire more people, or we've got to, automate something. Like we've got pressures on us because of our success. That's a pretty good place to be thinking about scaling. Do you agree? Like that to me feels like you're in a place where you can start thinking about that.
I think classically, and this is the reason why it's an important conversation, because the narrative that we've had is a myth, which is you need to be venture backed, you need to grow incredibly rapidly to build an incredibly successful company. And even though that was the really sort of the narrative for the last 15 years or so, there's always companies that do it differently. There's always companies that grow more systematically and that are not in this scale-up model. There is only one type of business that I believe genuinely needs to be a scale-up business by definition. You can choose to be a scale-up, but it's where you are in a winner-take-most market, meaning that the first one to market that achieves a good product market fit will get a massive amount of scale. For instance, right now, even though that there's way more competition, OpenAI claimed a large portion of the market with ChatGPT before Claude and the others could really come into play. Now there's been massive investment to try to catch up to that. However, if you were sitting there looking at what ChatGPT is and has become, that would be a scale-up play, because if you get there first, you can claim a large portion of the market. That's why you go VC. That's where they get their returns. They're willing to risk, yeah, we're going to light this thing on fire. It might blow up, or it might, reach exit velocity, my favorite, crazy ass term. So last question, and then we'll move into the speed round. What are the factors for you personally, the founder? Let's say that you're starting to have conversations with investors and they're very positive, even though be careful about that positivity, but that you really believe that you can go and raise a large round. You believe that you can go really fast and grow really fast. How do you know that you're ready as a company with this knowledge that growth will break you if you're not really there? And even if you are there, you've built a great little company, sometimes if you get to a place where it's like growth will break you anyway. So how do you know that? Like what would you ask yourself before you took that step?
Well, we're kind of right in the middle of this right now because we're putting together our fund, right? And in a sense, that is the whole nature of the fund is scaling a bunch of smaller existing businesses. And so when I think about what I'm looking for in our case, like some very clear indicators that are specific to the type of industry that we're in. But if I was a founder, um, I would be making sure that I'm running some scenarios and thinking through, how does this impact people? How does this impact cash flow? How does this impact product development? How does this impact you have to ask yourself those really hard questions before you even think about taking on money. And what would the money be for? Like when you do sources and uses, which no founder is going to do for themselves because they don't know it exists, but it's one of the main documents you have to put together as when you're putting together a fund. But it's a really good indication of it's a good exercise to go through to think, if I got all this money, what would it be used for? And where would the risks start to happen? So I think you have to do that thought exercise before you even think about scaling up, because those are the things that are going to catch you. If you've thought through these things first and you know where the risks are and you know where the money's going to go, you kind of allocated it, then you know more about what you need to ask for and the risks of asking for a lot.
It's
Excellent answer, but it's like that's my answer. Oh, did you go away?
just decided to go okay. The other component that we need is what is it that you want to do?
Yes.
Every single scale up I've ever been a part of, I've led them, I've been part of the team, the company breaks. And it's almost another, great book by Reid Hoffman called Blitzscaling. And it talks about you will break. You're not going to be able to fix the stuff. Reid Hoffman says you're going to go home with things on fire because you got to go home, you got to sleep. And there's just no way that you can operate without that. How comfortable are you at leading that company? For those of you listening, I'm CEO of Verb, and with me today is Stephanie Hayes as the reset. So the idea there is you have to decide if that's the journey you want to go on and your team wants to go on. And yes, it's appealing. Yes, you can be like, hey, if I get to the end of this journey as the CEO, I could have a really, really great exit and I could have a life-changing money. Truth is, it happens very rarely. It's much more likely, just looking at the numbers, that your company's going to blow up and fail. And so you have to decide if that's a journey you want to go on, or if this company is something where you want to grow it organically.
Well, you better hope that you've got a bunch of people who are ready to go on that journey with you too. Like this is the thing people underestimate the most when they decide they're going to take on that next scaling journey. Is like you get a bunch of core people who may not agree with you, right? Or who may not be comfortable there or whatever. You underestimate how important it is to understand how different things have to be for your people and how much things are going to change and how willing people are to go through that change and who else you're going to need and how the dynamics going to change. Like the culture of your business is not like a nice to have. It's not that is going to be what makes or breaks your transition, honestly.
It's such an important point. Culture is the thing, and Peter Drucker did not actually say culture eats strategy for lunch, but it's been attributed to him. And I think he was a smart guy, so probably should continue to say that. All right, Stephanie.
Yes.
I'm going to pause this time. Are you ready?
I need some breath work.
I mean, yeah.
I have my emotional support lion.
Okay, so are you ready for the speed round? I'm just asking. Steph, with me today is Stephanie Hayes. I am Steph is so smart. And I'm believing you're ready for the speed round, Stephanie. Here we go. You've got a good company: growth at all costs or sustainable unit economics?
Sustainable unit economics. That is my
You're in a scale up: hire fast, fire fast, or hire slow and invest in training?
hire fast, fire fast. I have to say, at that phase, in that phase.
That's just, don't train people. Why worry about that? Launch imperfectly or wait till you've achieved what you believe to be product market fit?
Launch imperfectly, you're going to learn a lot more pretty quickly.
In a scale up, focus on the product or focus on distribution?
Like, what? Distribution.
I would say distribution probably first, but yeah.
Product. I would say
Right.
product, but to me, distribution means.
No, you kind of need both though, right? You have to have a product that somebody actually likes before.
But that's
That's hard. That's the speed round. It's provocative. It's provocative, Stephanie. They don't always have the correct answers. Sometimes they're just mind-boggling. Deep dive recommendations. I already mentioned a couple, but the Lean Startup by Eric Ries, the classic. It's kind of our textbook for an entire generation of entrepreneurs. That's the thing. And even if you don't believe in it, you have to read it because all the words that we use, like pivot, are from that book. Pivot. And then Nail It, Then Scale It by Nathan Furr and Paul Astrom. Another good book. Good conversation. Stephanie, how about you get us out of here?
Thank you all so much for listening. Please make sure to visit us at howtofounder.com, where you can connect with us on LinkedIn and subscribe to our YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Spotify channels. If you enjoyed the conversation today, if that's possible, go ahead and give us a review. If you didn't like it, just send an email to Anthony.
Oh no, just send it to me. Steph is so smart at How to Founder. That's my name now. Because
You are the pioneer of economic prosperity. We are so grateful for you being here and letting us be part of your journey. We will see you next time, next Thursday, at the same time.
It's almost as if you have no business training at all.